And the other thing is that when you connect with the flow, become very courageous. Because you have to be courageous to say and do all these crazy things. The things that seem crazy to the little ant on the anthill. Oh, but this is bizarre. At the time I speak, people say this is bizarre. It's because the flow is happening, and you're bringing the macrocosmic realities to the microcosmic ant. So obviously there's some friction going on between the macrocosmic view of the masters, and the microcosmic view of the little ant. They go like, you're trying to drag them out of that little anthill consciousness. Recording or not? Now we're recording. I'm practically done.
At the end?
Now I'm ready for dessert. So, and that's the situation, like how can I shift my consciousness and become available to what the universe has to say through me at the moment. And every moment has that, And when you have people before you and their soul, their souls say that I want something really deep from you, please, because I'm drowning. One woman in the workshop, she said, "Oh God, I'm so glad you came here. For years I felt dead, and you are awakening me from my death. You are bringing me back to life." Now that's really a nice compliment for somebody to say. But how do you bring back somebody to life from their metaphysical death? And that's the story of Jesus too, right? Supposedly he brought Lazarus back from the dead. And it's not really sure if that was really an actual happening, maybe it was like that, or maybe it wasn't. But one thing that Jesus always does is he brings people back from the metaphysical dead. That's the job of a Jesus, and that's the job of any spiritual teacher, is to wake you up because you're dead. And they are trying to bring you back from the metaphysical death that people are in. People are metaphysically dead. A master just tries to bring you into being alive. And that's the job of any real, authentic, and powerful spiritual teacher, is to raise you from the dead, to make you spiritually alive. Not necessarily, in actuality, rarely, in fact, but to bring you back, to take you back from the dead. You could also say, this is the way of recovering souls, to recover souls, to reclaim souls, to bring souls back from wherever they are, in oblivion, in unconsciousness, to retrieve souls from the ocean of unconsciousness. Hence you see a lot this term soul retrieval. The word soul retrieval really has different types of meanings. It means that the soul has been lost in places not conscious, in places, in people even. We are capable as souls to leave a part of our souls in people that are halfway across the planet, in situations and places halfway across the planet. And so we are walking around with only like a small percentage of who we are, because our essence is in so many other places. So the word soul retrieval has become sort of very catchy, like a catchphrase, soul retrieval.
But we can also lost souls in past lives.
That is possible too. Yeah, the capacity that we have to be lost is really quite amazing. We have a lot of options of how we can be lost. Really, it's a big circus. We can be lost in so many different ways. Just as I always say, that human beings have such an incredible creative way of creating suffering. There's always one new way of, experiencing suffering. Oh, yes, I suffered this way, but now I found a new way. Well, this way got old, so I just found out a new way of suffering again. I'm creating new ways of suffering all the time to keep entertained. And that's what we do. We create one new suffering after the other. And the Buddha says, well, you really have to look at what the mind does. How do you manage to do this? This morning I had a lot of reflections going on, and I said to myself, because how we create suffering becomes more and more subtle, even when you become very, very conscious. You still, there's, the more conscious you become, the less you suffer. That's really where it's at. But if you, for instance, go into the direction of the bodhisattva, then of course you're having still some desires. The bodhisattva has a desire, of bringing light, of bringing joy, and of diminishing suffering. And, that is a desire. And if that desire is not met, then the bodhisattva suffers, because he's not really completely conscious of the final desires. And I say to myself, well, one of your desires is that you want to see the world be compassionate. You want to see people act compassionately. And when they don't, you suffer. And I thought, wow, okay, I've got to really pay attention, to that one, because once I pay attention to that, I can just let it go. Because ultimately my goal is to become totally free. I mean, totally free. And if I have an attachment to compassion and compassionate behavior, that's still a way of not being free. So, et voilà.